Hi guys, it's Mary. Welcome back. I asked you guys on Instagram and on the YouTube community page to share with me something funny that happened to you in high school so that I can share that with everybody in the Fritzy family. And if it makes me think of something else that happened in my life, then I'll share that too. I do want to say that I probably should have said something funny that's happened in your life, not narrowed it down to just high school, because I guess not everybody had a wonderful high school experience, but surely even if you didn't, there was something funny that happened at high school. But anyway, if you have anything funny that you'd like to say for maybe a second video, leave that story below and we'll get to that. But in any case, Marcy says, "Hi Mary, I was a cheerleader and my BFF was too. So we were walking down the halls kind of cheering and came upon Mr. J, a very off algebra teacher with weird semantics. Anyhow, my BFF and I both gave him a little hit with our swing hips simultaneously and continued to cheer." Okay, so they're walking beside him down the hall and they gave him a little bump with their hips, okay, simultaneously. So it probably jarred him. And continued to cheer some songs that they'd learned for Spirit. Anyhow, about 30 minutes later, we both got called to the principal's office. What a little narc. He went down and told on him. He couldn't just laugh. Anyway, about 30 minutes later, we were both called to the principal's office and he was not amused at our Spirit. We got detention. Doesn't that seem like a little strong for that? But it was quite hysterical as we were doing it. This was back in the early 80s. What a great time. I'd never repeat. Yeah, if you did that today, they'd probably bring you up on charges or something. Kimbo D says, "I missed the pick your graduation photo day for the yearbook, and I was visiting relatives in a different state, so the high school office picked one for me. I was the only one in the yearbook wearing the feather wrap. Now that I'm in my 50s, I should remember it then, right? If Kimbo is in her 50s and I'm in 61, I should know what a feather wrap is." So now that she's in her 50s, she thinks it's hilarious, but at the time it was embarrassing. I bet. Oh my gosh. And then Dixie's mom says, "Ah, see, she knows. The feather wrap. I'm 69 and the girls all wore those wraps in our pictures. Who thought we all wanted to look like nightclub singers?" I'm picturing what this looks like, but let's look it up just to see what it is. Is that what it is? If that's what it is, I see why they call it a feather. I don't remember ever getting to choose what picture was in the yearbook. I know that Shy Guy, he didn't show up for picture day. Somehow a picture of him looking very much like a stoner ended up in the yearbook. And one of my friends wrote something very not nice about him because we were fighting at the time, and they wrote something very not nice about him. And I mean, really dug it in my yearbook. So now, our kids have seen it and they're like, what is that? Lorraine, who is in Scotland, says, "Hi Mary, not so much high school, but nursing college. Yes, I was attending college and working part-time in a restaurant for extra money. One day in class in summer, I fell asleep. Very boring class with a tutor who had a monotonous voice. He came over and banged on the desk, waking me, then asked if I was bored, and if so, I could leave. I shoved my stuff in the bag and walked out of the class saying, 'Thanks.' It is, and I will." I can almost see this from Lorraine because while I've never seen her, I've talked with her a lot in the comments, and I can just tell you, she's full of spunk, okay? So I can see her doing that. "He hurried out after me down the corridor and said, in 20 years, no one has ever said yes and walked out. But I told him that I would see him next time and was going since he said that I could. So I went for a snooze in the library instead." Still at college, but different class, for the second memorial event, we were attending the de-escalation and breakaway class. That's how to defend yourself from an attack, okay? At the beginning of the class, I was talking to a friend before the class got going, and one of the tutors decided it would be a good idea to grab me from behind, arm around my throat. I can almost tell you where this is going. because I know some stuff about Lorraine. So they did this to her as a demonstration. Now, I was probably the worst person that he could have picked, to be honest, having done judo and running around on motorbikes with bikers. Before he knew what had happened, he was on the floor with my elbow jabbed into his neck. Stupid man. So his demo didn't quite go off as planned. I was told I had passed the course at the end, funnily enough, but never had anyone quite so effectively dealt with the demo prior to the class. I bet he never, ever forgot that. I didn't have this scenario happen, but in my college days, there was this teacher. She was an English teacher. She went up to the board and she wrote the word anti-disestablishmentarianism. I don't know why, but it was just like that week or something, I had learned what this word meant. Now, I have since forgot. It has something to do with church and state, I think. But anyway, at that time, I just so happened to hear what the definition was and remembered it. So she goes up to the board, and this is something that I guess she did every year. She goes up to the board and she underlines the word, turns around and says, if anyone here can tell me what this is, you will be allowed to leave the class. You don't have to come back, and I'll give you an A. She reneged on that because I did know what it was. Actually, I think it was the other way around. I think she had the definition on the board. And I stood up and said, it's anti-disestablishmentarianism. I told her, and she just looked at me like, you smart aleck. And then I gathered my stuff to leave, right? But I wasn't as bold as Lorraine. I didn't push the issue when she told me to sit down. And not only didn't she let me leave and get an A and not have to come back, she was really hard on me because she thought that I was like some kind of a smart aleck. Now, I do want to be clear, I am a smart aleck, but she just met me. She couldn't have possibly known this. So Tara says, on my way to state swimming championships at Penn State University, and the only freshman on the bus, they told me that there was a dance the night before the race, and did I bring a gown? I was very gullible and I started crying. I guess my team felt sorry for me and started to laugh and said that it was only a gag. One day I'll never forget. Aw, it made you the butt of their joke on the bus. Penn State, huh? All right, oh my goodness. I would never forget that day either. Terry says, walking through the high school cafeteria with my BFF and had my head turned towards her as we were walking and talking. Uh-oh. I turned my head back and wham! That girl let me walk right into a steel pole. Luckily, my face stopped me from doing any real damage to the pole. I walk into stuff all the time, Terry. I walk into the walls of this house. I have lived here in this place for 27 years, and I'm still walking into the wall. I remember one time, me, my brother, his girlfriend, and my husband were on a trail in Brown County, and you can ride horses. Okay, so we were riding horses. This happened. My horse, it hated me, I guess. I don't know why it didn't tell me that we were approaching a tree, but I was turned around talking to my brother, and when I turned back around, there was a tree branch that would just come right across, that hit me in the face, almost knocked me off this horse. I didn't think that was very funny, but this is. Nina says, while I was still in high school, I attended a local college part-time. I was taking chemistry level 1, but I had not taken any high school level chemistry courses previously. Me too, Nina. I took chemistry for the first time in college. She goes on to say, it was the most difficult, perhaps unwise course I could have taken. Long story short, after struggling through the entire year, I took my final exam. As I approached the board to learn my grade, I realized that no one had ever told me what my student ID number was. I had no clue how to locate my grade. Literally, every single grade posted except for 2 were all Fs. With a heavy heart, I decided that it was entirely likely that I also had received an F. As I trudged down to the door, my curiosity won the better of me. I poked my head into the administration. Look at me, I'm like, what happened next? What happened next? Okay, see, I poked my head into the administration office and asked them how I could determine my student ID number, and once they explained that it was simply the last 4 digits of my social security number, I raced back to the list. Turns out that I was the only one in my class who received a passing grade of C. Well, yay! The other grade listed was a B-, but I could only be proud that I received the only C in my class. Oh, I'm proud of you too. That's awesome. Angie says, my freshman year was assigned a locker, had the combo. After the first week, I forgot it. I think I did this every year. Was using a friend's because it was closer to my classes. Never used it again all year. We had to have the staff open it on the last day. And then Jillian, or Gillian, I'm not really sure how you say that. I know the name. All right. A boy in my form did this too. On the last day, we all gathered around to witness the unveiling of the mummified lunch for the first day. And then she's got a little, emoji. It used to take me probably a month or two into school before I would remember the combination. I had no problem remembering Shy Guy's locker combination, but my own, I would have to dig through my purse, get out the piece of paper that it was written on, so that I could, yeah. We were just talking about high school stuff the other day at Chili's. We were there eating, and I thought, I'm just going to ask him, what is something funny that you remember from high school? And he goes, well, there was this girl, and we got caught in the band. And I'm just sitting there going, because I remember that too. It wasn't exactly funny. Anyway, we were talking about stuff, and I was telling him about some things I did to his books in his locker and wondered if he ever wondered who did it. And he's like, no, I knew who did it. And I'm like, okay, well, did you ever wonder how I got the combination to your, because he didn't give it to me. I worked in the office. Jeanette says, in the late 70s, one of my classmates taped a Playboy centerfold to one of the maps in the history class. You can imagine the rest when the teacher pulled down the map. They'll never forget it. I didn't do that, but I've done, class clowny kind of things. I bet that surprises you. And, here's the trick. Here's the trick to pulling stuff off without getting into trouble. Just act like you are supposed to be there doing it. All right. I remember one time I wanted to go to the payphones. When you came in to get in the school, there were payphones there in case you needed to call your parent or whatever. Remember when that cost a dime? Remember when necessary napkins cost a dime? And when you'd say to somebody, can I have a dime? They knew what it was for. And it was never the telephone. Right? But I remember one time I wanted to call Shy Guy. He didn't come to school. He was supposed to come to school like I did, and he wasn't there. So I wanted to call him. So I got out of class, said I had to go to the bathroom or something, and instead I was going to go to the payphones. And before I could get to the phone, the principal popped out of nowhere in the hall. And he's like, Mary, where are you going? This should tell you something. In a high school, the principal knows your first name. Well, I worked in the office, so it might have something to do with it. But anyway, he's like, Mary, where are you supposed to be? Why are you out of class? And I just laughed and kept walking and yelled back at him, I'm skipping. I was skipping. And he just laughed and walked off. That's how you pull this stuff off. You just act like you belong. Fatima says, okay, only one funny thing happened to me in all of high school. That's right, only one. My high school years were... But I'm not normal. I am a solid introvert, a pure high school nerd. Same high school look now as then, hair bun, big glasses, long skirt, high heels, want to hide from everything. I do want to tell you guys, I have seen Fatima. She's beautiful. She is gorgeous. Okay, so she wanted to hide from everything, okay? Then the high school super jock, yes, he was cute too, but I was like, okay, came behind me in the hallway and started singing and dancing Michael Jackson's The Way You Make Me Feel, Hey Pretty Baby with the high heels on. Every kid in the hall seemed to part like the freaking High School Musical, and I melted into my books, tried not to die, and make it to the 8th period. I swear, if I could have hidden back in my locker, I was in Scholars, so we had the full-length ones. She could have fit in it, then she would have. Lord, what the other students that got a look at my face must have thought. That is funny. Serenading, huh? Wow. I got serenaded once. Yeah, it was, how much is that dog in the window? That is true. I'm telling you the truth. One day, I was messing around in the halls with Shy Guy. Of course, looking back on it, I think that all these teachers probably had our number, and they probably told each other in the teacher's lounge. Oh, you know what they did now? I don't know. I was messing around in the halls again with Shy Guy, and late. okay, for the class. So the teacher wasn't there yet. This was Spanish class, and the teacher wasn't there yet. I don't remember any of the Spanish. I didn't learn it. It was terrible. I don't know English. So how could they expect me to learn Spanish? But anyway, I was late, and the kids in the class shut the door. Now, this door was a door that if you had a key, you could get in. But when the door was shut, anyone on the outside can't come in. Anyway, so then you got like the door, and then next to the door is a window, right? Well, I am desperately trying to get my classmates, somebody, one of them, to please open this door so I can get in before the teacher comes and catches me outside and marks me late yet again. Would they do it? No, they're all too busy laughing at David, who's in there singing, "How much is that dog in the window? How much is that dog for sale?" Me, I'm the dog. You got that, right? Right, anyway. For this next one, I'm not sure how you say this. For Manvos, I was a cheerleader in high school, captain and tiny. So whenever we did stunts or pyramids, I was on top or I was thrown. There was one girl just a bit bigger than me, and she wanted to be on top in a particular stunt. I said, absolutely. I would have been like, no, you're bigger than me. Get on the bottom. Get under me. That's what I would have said. Get under me. Now, I'm also strong, so she was to need to get on my shoulders. No problem. She steps on my thigh, then a shoulder, and then the next person. She got nervous and rushed and didn't wait for me to move my skirt out of the way. She steps on my skirt and rips the zipper open and starts to cry. I'm yelling at her to get her butt up and finish as my skirt falls to the floor. Good thing cheerleaders wear bloomers. The assembly crowd goes wild. I bet they did. Can you picture 2,500 teens? No. I calmly stepped out of my skirt, picked it up, and walked out of the gym. Take that. In my wake, the pyramid falls and she's crying and I'm out the door. This didn't happen to me, but it happened to one of my girlfriends, okay? So this was hilarious. Not cheerleading. Not only is this not cheerleading, but it has nothing to do with the only connection that this is that it is something really embarrassing that happened in front of a lot of people in the gym. Okay, she wasn't a cheerleader. But you know how you're doing the pommel horse? And you were just supposed to like run in the gym class, jump on the thing, you grab the pommels and your legs go, you know, around it like a straddle, right? And then you jump, you dismount, right? Okay. Well, she runs, jumps, grabs the pommels, her legs go around, but she don't let go. So she's like hanging upside down with her hands between her legs, come off to the side laughing. She will not let go. Okay, well, I mean, can you blame her? But she's just like hanging upside down with her hands between her legs. If you can picture that. Beach Life Forever 2017 says, the one time in my life that I skipped in high school or any school, I got busted. You know, probably if I'd have got busted, I wouldn't have done it again. Back then, there was no computers, right? You remember there was no computers. Remember when you would like have to have a note from your parent? And I used to read these notes that people would bring in. Like one was, please excuse, let's say it's Jill. Please excuse Jill. Yesterday she had diarrhea. You're like, can you imagine? You're going to take that to school and give it to the office. What they did was they took these notes, or at least at the high school that I went to, they would take all the notes from the parents and they would get filed manually in your file in the office. Then when it came time for the report cards, what would happen is me or someone working in the office would then go through the folders and they would count the absences. You know how you would take it around all your classes and then your last class teacher would take it, and then someone like me, because they worked in the office, would have to go through everyone's folder and count up the excused and unexcused absences, and they were reported and showed up on your report card. Well, mine were okay because I just pulled mine out. Magically hit the trash can, and yours too if you got $5. Pam Wees says, my parents, when I was in high school, lived in a high-rise apartment building that had a pool. I was lying at the pool with my mother, and my dad came out and said that they wanted to go to the Brown Derby. So we went into the house to get dressed, and my mother just grabbed her clothes and said, I'll get dressed in the car. Normal for her. So we all get in the car, including my mother with her ball of clothes. On a side note, We only lived 10 minutes from there. After we pulled in the parking lot, we all got out of the car. I looked over at my mother to tell her something and busted out laughing. Because I started laughing, everyone looked at my mother when she got dressed because her panties were in her shorts. She thought that she could pull them up. What she didn't realize was that her panties were on the outside. My dad and my sisters were all laughing. My mom is standing there and wants to know what we're laughing about. I was laughing so hard that I had to hold on to the car. My dad pointed at her shorts and said, "You put your panties on over your shorts." We talk about that to this day and laugh just as hard. I bet you did. Of course, everyone knows someone who's gone to the bathroom and got toilet paper on their heel, right? And walked out with it trailing behind them. But did you ever know anyone who got their skirt like in their pantyhose? They're like walking around with their butt hanging out, basically. That's what that reminds me of. Lori says, I wet my pants a little in algebra because my friend Mike Kidney was called during attendance and the teacher made a comment about his name. And Mike said, with a straight face, "You may know my cousin, Louis Liver." And I laughed and peed a little. Had to go to the nurse after and get my mom to bring me new jeans. This reminds me of a story of Shy Guy. Not same scenario at all, but involved the jeans, the clothes, actually. So me and my BFF were in gym. You know how you take the showers after gym? Okay, we didn't feel like doing that. We didn't want to be like getting naked in front of all the other girls. So we didn't. But after doing this a few times and getting by with it, it kind of made the girls in the gym class upset with us because they had to, so we should have to too, right? So what happened was they waited till we got dressed and then they took us, pulled us in there and threw us in the showers. So we were like all wet in our clothes. What happened was we changed into our gym suits and then took our clothes to the home ec room. Remember home ec? Took our clothes to the home ec room and put them in the dryer. All right, but then we had to continue on and go to our classes. You guys have seen me. I actually have something up front here. I'm walking down the hall in my gym suit. It's a one piece that zips up the front. Walking down the hall, I'm trying to keep my books over me so that I don't bounce around, right? And Shy Guy's walking backwards in front of me the whole time, trying to knock the books out of my arms so that, you know how he is, right? That Shy Guy. That's what he was doing. Or we were laughing about that the other night. Joan says, I was 16 in 1960 and dating Bob. Bob had a junker of a car. But hey, a car is still transportation and cool, right? Right. One day we drove to a nearby town to visit his dad at work. All of a sudden, we were pulled over by the police. Oh my gosh. They said that Bob's car was a danger on their roads because it was falling apart. They packed me into the squad car and drove me home. We had a 300-foot driveway, and all I could think about was how Mother would react when she saw a police car pull up in the driveway. Panic, anger, embarrassment. Would she ever let me drive with Bob again? Ultimately, Bob got a better car, and I continued to date him until graduation. Lots of good times with him and his family. Before he got the new car, were you still allowed to see him in the junker? I mean, until he got the new car, could you still see him in the junker? Inquiring minds want to know. I've never gotten pulled over because the car was a junker. I did get pulled over one time. I probably shouldn't tell this story. When I was a teenager, I worked at Poppin' Fresh Pies. I've told you guys that before. And the police always used to come there and eat because we gave them free food, which is smart because it kept cops in the restaurant. So things probably weren't going to happen, like holdups and stuff like that, right? If it's got a whole bunch of cops in there. But this one cop, he was like one of these people that, he's a grown adult, right? Because he's a cop. But yet he's trying to pick up on and make passes at girls like me who were like 16, 17, jailbait. You'd think he'd know better, right? Well, he always used to like smack my behind as I would go by this table. It was a horseshoe kind of thing, and all the cops would sit in it. And Hank was on the outside. So whenever I would come by, he'd swat my butt and make some kind of a comment. Well, it made me mad. Now, if you're young, you're probably going, what? Okay, yeah, that's the kind of things that went on in the 80s and before that we just kind of had to put up with. But this one day I'd had enough. And Hank, he was eating cherry pie. And he had made some kind of a derogatory comment about a cherry. And I went up to the booth and I took my finger and went boom. And one of the cherries from his pie went in his face. And I told him what he could do with that cherry. Well, that night he was waiting in the parking lot when I got off work and followed me down almost to where I turned off to go home and pulled me over for fog lights. Really what he wanted to do was let me know without saying anything that this kind of thing can keep going on if you want to act like that. So can you imagine doing something like that today? I don't know if I've said this in a way you can understand what I'm saying. Anna says, just to paint a brief picture, I was the most unpopular and bullied nerd in school and very shy and quiet. I'm sorry. That's terrible. That's not funny. Maybe it gets funny. There was a boy in my class who I liked called Chris, and he was the class clown. One day in physics, just before the teacher arrived, Chris decided to fill a tampon with water. He spun it around by the string really fast and it shot out of his hand and planted the most popular boy in the school right in the face just as the teacher walked by. I had never seen anything so funny and became hysterical with laughter. I'm crying in laughter now just thinking of it. The teacher was very strict and shouted at the whole class to sit down and shut up. I can picture this happening, but I was uncontrollable. Which was extremely out of character for me at the time. Because I couldn't stop crying with laughter, it kept the whole class laughing too. The teacher became really angry and started shouting at me, but I just couldn't stop. I ended up getting the blackboard rubber thrown at me and hit with a ruler on the back of my hands, but I still couldn't stop. The teacher told me to get out of the classroom and to go see the headmaster to explain why I had been dismissed from the lesson. I couldn't even explain what had happened because I was still laughing, crying, snorting, snotting all over the place. It was so humiliating, but it remains one of the funniest things I've ever seen. All my love, Anna. Oh my gosh, Anna. At some point, I think everybody has laughed very inappropriately. I mean, there's something about knowing that you're not supposed to laugh that makes you laugh and you just can't quit. One time, me and my brother, we got in trouble. Actually, we were going to a funeral home to pick up chairs because this funeral home got new ones and they were giving away the old ones to a neighbor and they were going to give us some. And so me and my brother are in the back seat of this car and my dad and this guy are up front and they're talking. And me and my brother are laying down. Remember when you didn't have to wear seatbelts so you could lay down in the car? Okay, so we're laying on the floorboard and we're making fart noises. And stuff and peeking up to see what they're doing. Laugh, make more fart noises. Peek up. Dad making no face whatsoever. It's as if we're not even doing it. So when we get home then, Dad makes us stand, at the front door. And we are to keep making fart noises until we don't think it's funny anymore. I mean, this must have gone on for a couple of hours, right? It just kept getting funnier and funnier and funnier. Have you ever gotten like a whipping? And when I say whipping, I'm talking about a disciplinary thing. When your parents have gone through all the things, and you're still laughing, you're going to get a whipping now. And you're laughing while you're getting the whipping and your brain is telling you, shut up, you idiot. But you can't. You just got to keep on laughing. Yes, that is hilarious because I've done it too. And then she says another one. A very similar thing happened during a history lesson. The girl on the table next to me had a bad cold. Whilst the teacher was calling attendance, the girl sneezed and filled both of her hands with copious amounts of luminous green snot. Ugh. As she pulled her hands away from her face, the snot clung to both of her hands and face in great strings and poured through her fingers. The look of shock and disgust on her face was priceless. Needless to say, hysteria set in again. And for the second time, I had to be dismissed by a teacher. This from the quiet kid? No. I'm still the same. Whenever something strikes me as really funny, the visuals replay in my head and hysteria sets in. Thanks for the memories and the laugh, Mary. I get you, Anna. I do this same thing all the time. And that's it. That's all I have. Some may have come in after I screenshotted these, and if so, I'll put them back for another time. If you want to list any funny stories, okay? It doesn't have to be high school. Just anything funny you can think of in your life that you'd like to share and you'd like for me to share with everybody, then just put that in a comment below and we'll do that another day. I want to let you guys know that you are the best part of the Fritzy family. Thank you for your comments, your laughs, everything that you give on this channel. I love you so much. And if you're not feeling blessed, then all you got to do is go be a blessing to somebody else. Just having you here blesses me every single time. So until next time, love you, see ya, bye. And I'm out.
I kind of look like a raccoon today, don't I? Oh, I got something in my eye. Could it be your finger, you idiot? I took college in chemistry. Hey, Gillian, how did you get off that island? Were you afraid to get on ships now? My angel was a centerfold. Angel was a centerfold. My blood runs cold. My memory has just been sold. My angel is a centerfold. Angel is a centerfold. Na 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 na. I love that song. We used to have kids that did this stuff all the time in class, and you know, real class clowns, right? But I only ever got suspended. No, I'm just kidding. And started singing and dancing Michael Jackson's "The Way You Make Me Feel." Yeah. How do I make you feel? I know. It's a cringe moment, isn't it? They were all looking out for us because all the teachers probably went, look, this is them walking backwards. All of the teachers were walking backwards. We got some cheerleaders here. I always wanted to be a cheerleader, but they wouldn't take me. You guys want to see why? Okay, I knew you'd want to know. It goes, R-O-W-D-I-E, that's the way we spell rowdy, rowdy. Let's get rowdy. I'm sorry. I'm really not. Yes, I had diarrhea. 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 I love to sing the diarrhea song. Diarrhea. Diarrhea. I know, I'm such a child. 16 in 1960 and dating Bob. Bob was a junker of a car. Wait a minute. That's not what that said. She was dating her car.